Morning from yammybtv. Wishing you all well today. Sending loads of love as usual. Now the subject I'm raising today comes with a few different things in the mix with it, but along the same lines, if you get what I mean. If you can, we're doing comparisons with the old and the new, and playing a position of a hard man, right? Because I put it into three types. I do. If there's one more or two more, let me know. I might have forgotten. But you've got the one in the old days. You'd have the one big man on the wing who has the final say. So you know that you get a lot of trouble, a lot of unnecessary mix-ups on the wing, and you run to him and say, look, he's done this and they've done that, and he's going to fight with him and he owed that and this and that. And a man will step in and he'll say, well, listen, there's an easy solution to that, or there's a reasoning behind that. And you'll both be sitting there listening to him, and he'll say, look, the voice of reason, you drop that out. There's no need for it. It's unnecessary. Big man talk. Drop it out and find a solution of some way. Whether you owe, you pay it in different installments, or a fighting thing, there's no need for it. We squash that because it's not really that serious. It's not life or death. Or maybe because simply you don't want everybody to fall out. The big man thinks to himself, well, if you fight with him, that's going to cause them to argue and them to argue. And he doesn't really want it on his plate, because he's enjoying his time with that role that he's got in there, and he doesn't want no one to unsettle it. For whatever position being the big man comes, there comes a lot of pluses and minuses with it. But it's a very difficult role to play. And the comparisons with today, the youngsters, is that there's bosses, so to speak, on all corners. So whether you got the biggest link to the drug dealers, or you got the biggest link for the guns, or, each of you on each block have got the same thing. So you can talk to those underneath you on your block, and you're the big man for them, but him round the corner, he's in the same position as you. So you can't go there and say to him, well, listen, you drop that out and I'll listen to you, or not unless you're alliances, of course. But, he's in the same position as you, and he's not really going to listen to you because he's doing his bit and you got to do your bit. As if in the day, the bosses like from North, East, South London, West London, Manchester, Leeds, all over the country would meet up. You'd have some of the names we've mentioned along the way, like when there's a bit of trouble, and if you think it means that you two might fall out, you might meet and say, listen, like, this has happened and that's happened. Like, what are we going to do about it? And he'll say, well, what do you think is the best way to... So you both come to an agreement. So you both say, listen, on my side, we squash that. On this side, we squash that. For whatever reasons, a smooth running of the wing, they like the position they're in. They don't want it unsettled. Many like their egos massaged. But remember, I put three types of hard men. I put the hard men, the real violent ones that just like to rule by fear, who say, if you don't do as you're told, I'm going to do you in. But he's not after no financial gain. He's not after being a mediator. In fact, he's the opposite. When two people are arguing, he doesn't want no one to get in and break it up. He wants to see the fight. He's not after no financial gain or drugs or anything out of it, because he's not into it. So his way of doing things, and a hard man that can have a fight, but is more of a protector, say. So when you get youngsters coming on the wing during my days, when there's trouble, they will put their arm around you and say, come here, son. We'll sort something out for you. I won't let nothing happen to you. We'll do it. Where these days, these lot here, the youngsters coming up here now, they're not going to listen to all that. You'd have a gentleman's agreement back in the day where the two of you are brought together by the man who's supposedly in control of the wing, and he'll say, shake on it, no more things. And that goes on for years and years and years. I remember I had trouble with him, but it got stopped by blah-de-blah-de-blah. That massages the big man's ego, because in his head he's thinking, well, because of me, I settled that one. But in some way, what is he getting out of it? He's getting out of it that they will remember me at some stage, that when he gets older, or when there's a sticky position thing for him, they'll say, well, I remember when he done that for me, he was a nice bloke and he never took liberties with me. So I will come out with him where, say, the other hard man, the man that's not looking to mediate, who's not looking to make financial gain, who doesn't want his name rang around the wing all day, or wants to bully anyone, who wants to start fights. He's just in the background, and if you bother him, he's just going to have it with you. Or if he loves you, he just comes out the blue for you. You know, we've heard stories about hard men, quiet hard men like that just appear out of nowhere, and they hold that fear factor, as in you don't get to know them that well, because you've got the feeling that if you're too friendly or say the wrong thing in a nice way or good way, he's not like pushing it out that he's unapproachable, because he's still polite and everything. But what I'm trying to say, he's not after anything out of anything. So the good hard man, so to speak, and we know a few of them are out here, and when I look back on some of the names being called out here, they've written books and a couple of things, I look back and I can remember 2 big stories that you did to bring about that hard man image, but I can't remember anything else. But it goes down in folklore as people remember, yeah, remember when that happened and when that happened, and they lived off it forever and ever. Where the bully kind of hard man, when he loses or it goes wrong for him, the whole wing's clapping. You know, they're like, good, I'm glad that happened to you. Yeah. So, you know, and then the next thing you know, they've got to recover from that. So all that survival army kit that they were, you know, untouchable and couldn't lose a row like we were talking yesterday, all becomes, you know, you're human after all, that you can lose, because on any given day, you get a man ready to have it with you on mat. I see a big, massive name who used to knock out everybody. Have a row with a geezer from Nottingham, and they were scrapping in the gym. He didn't know who that hard man was. This is the bully kind of hard man. So they're exchanging punches, and they're both from the Midlands, right? But he matched him. But as soon as afterwards, everybody said to him, you know who that was he was fighting, like kind of thing. He became kind of, oh, is it him? Then they met further a few days down the line, a few days later. He's seen him in the gym now, because the one that didn't get, the hard man that didn't get his way that way, sees him and then approaches him. But now the one that was fighting well on that day now is kind of fearful and gets banged and his jaw's broken and he has to have a metal plate in his mouth. But if he didn't know who he was, if no one had told him, he would have been scrapping with him and probably may have got the better, or maybe not even have lost, if you get what I mean. But we know we've seen a lot of bullies come unstuck. But I was going to get round to the fear and love of, you know, like, if you've got a friend, because, all right, you're using the good hard man for his position, basically. Because if he likes you and he favours you, he'll do anything for you, right? So he will even say, step in for you when you're in the wrong. Like, he likes you that much. I mean, there's times when the good hard man and the man that runs the ring in them days, if he doesn't like someone, he doesn't feel the spirit, he won't, because he can't please everybody, obviously, because he knows he's taking on a workload that's too much sometimes. And, you know, he'll have his favourable ones because he knows in the future maybe that they might come out for him when needed. Because if a good hard man comes unstuck, maybe those around him that he's helped out before will say, oh God, I liked him. I remember when he did this for me. And you'll join in and do things for him. You know, the way that they're using youngsters now to do things. Very important to understand this. Like, the olders now to say, oh, I'll just get the youngsters to go and do it. I don't need to do nothing no more. When in the old days, I can't see most of them older guys selling youngsters to go and do their dirty work, because it felt to me during my early days that the older lot would want to bring the younger lot, you know, to show them the way of that way, if you get what I mean, but not use them, more stick up for them. As into now, they're sending like kids with, you know, dyslexic problems, who can't think things through, who haven't got nobody, you know, who are in a vulnerable state, who we talked about belonging and wanting to be part of something, and they'll do absolutely anything to make sure that they've got some kind of respect and a sense of belonging somewhere. But that person's going to forget about you soon gone by, because if you send some of these youngsters out to do things and then the enemies that you've sent them out to do things to know that it's you, then you want to distance yourself from it. So that leaves that person, the youngster doing it ain't going to get no thing. If anything, he's going to live in fear in the end, because they're further and further away from the trouble they want to stay. The more you feel isolated again, and you feel like you did things for nothing. So you've got a future battle or beef that really, again, you did on behalf of someone else, but they're using them to such an extent that you're getting them to kill people because you can't do the dirty work yourself. In the old days, it would be face on. Like, I got a problem with you. I don't like what you're saying. What you saying then? Man to man. You see what I mean? The difference, and it all gets sorted there and then, and maybe the best man win. And we know already that just because you lost on that day, you don't really lose face. Because the real people know that on certain days anything can happen, and it doesn't mean that just because you lost that day, the next time you fight or you come back, you're going to come back with more extreme violence now, because it becomes a real serious thing. But the youngsters today, and compared to yesterday, it's a complete different thing. You know, you would never ever be able to, you wouldn't feel good about yourself if you were going to put a little kid in a position of doing something that for the rest of his life, you know, because you're not going to see him after jail, really. You know that one day there's many that used to say to me, yeah, you do that for me. When you come out, I'll have work for you and you can come and do a hit for me. And, you know, there'll be plenty of things. Don't worry, I'll look after you. But when they leave jail, they haven't really got the time. I remember ringing certain men when in the early days after they promised me things from jail, and then they say, yeah, all right, you're right. They don't want to talk to you. They've got their other stuff going on. Jail's a long way away. It's just survival at the time. What was I just going to say? The love and fear was the other thing I was going to say. Like, I mean, if you've got a man, say, all right, if we call them friends, a lot of men, I used to name drop back in the day when I was a youngster. Yeah, I know, what's his name? I know, what's his name? And blah, blah, blah. I was guilty of that. I don't know if many of you were either, you know, because it used to sound right, and it was a protective survival skill that you say, yeah, I know, what's his name? So that person you're talking to, you're a bit scared of him, but you want to say, I know him, so don't trouble me because he might get involved, when really you don't know him that well at all, kind of thing. Do you see what I mean? But you'd use it for that reason. But I thought about it long and hard the other day about fear and love and what's the difference. And I've had arguments, say, with Tony and John and Tel and big people, like bigger in the game, in that life, if you get my mean, than me and Roger and other people. And I'm in their face and I'm saying, listen, I think you're wrong, mate. I said, I don't think that. And their faces are boiling, like, you know, they want to crack me and they want to hit me, but something's holding them back. Because you know why? They were real men. Real men. Even GN, even Q, even all of them like that. When they're in the wrong, or when they feel that you've got an argument to go with, and make them think about what they're saying and what they're thinking, putting their aggression aside of that manly thing. What are you talking to? Bang. Your friend, you're meant to be able to disagree with him, I'm afraid. Because he can't be a friend. I mean, if you can't, as long as you're not disrespecting him in any way, as long as you're, you know, being polite about it, you're saying, listen, I just don't agree with that bit. You know, I've been face to face with some of those I'm talking about, and then they turn around and they say, I love you, Yammy, because you tell me, you know what I mean? You tell me, because I know that you're right on that one. That's it. It's not meant to be that they're your friends just because they can have a row, that you got to bow down and to agree to everything they say. Because that don't do them any good, and it don't do you any good, because then you're living in fear of, you can't even be yourself around them. That's not no good. That's the bully one that you're around. And I've been around a couple in my early days, and I thought, oh God, I've got to agree here. You know what I mean? It's sad to say. You know what I mean? I wasn't always the one that had the upper hand on everything. You know, you think, oh, if I say that bit, he's just going to go, you are. You know, and it's not to if I said it to him, my mate, and then my mate, they'll go, yeah, and have a laugh about it. But, you know, there was some that you have to tread on eggshells with, and you think, well, I can't say that I love you, really. I liked you, like, in your own little way. I could see through a few flaws in your character, but there were some loving bits to you. But for you to want to be punching your friend because he disagreed with you, like, I have to look at you different, because I'm thinking then that The only thing that you hold on to that you got better than me is that you can beat me up in a straightener, not with weapons, you know, but in a straightener, like you can do me that way there. So that means that I would accept it and go, all right, then, just so that you don't hit me. So in some ways, I'm being bullied because I'm not having a go back, so to speak. So then I'm thinking then that I don't like you no more. Then I don't, because then I fear you. But can you fear somebody and love them at the same time? Is one of my questions this morning. I'm thinking about it and I'm tossing it over in my head. And I'm thinking, like, I fear him and I fear him. But I do love him, though. I do, because I know that the worst come to the worst. He's not going to kill me. He's not going to smack me in the mouth. He's not going to belittle me. He might get the ump for a couple of days and then it's forgotten about. Those are the real friends. But the others, no. And those ones, those quiet, hard men, they are in there. And they are in the system. And you ever in the system and you overlook them or underestimate them, trust me, because I always realize a real hard man doesn't need the limelight. He doesn't need people feeding his ego. He knows that he doesn't have nothing to prove to himself. Do you see what I mean? And being in that position takes a lot of head work. Because if you get challenged in front of everyone, and you're not up for it that day, or you're not expecting it because you're on such a high in your position, that when someone belittles you and he doesn't know you, or he says something that everyone thinks, oh, well, where are you going to let that one go? Don't let that one go. Like that, you know what I mean? And don't let that one go. And everybody's thinking, nah, you can't have that. But, you know, his face powders a little bit, goes a bit red. And you're thinking to yourself, my God, he's been belittled. How does he feel? He goes back to his cell and he's going to be thinking about it. And then when the doors open, you're looking up there and you're thinking, boy, I wonder how you're feeling over there. But a real man will know that you live to see another day, you know. And then we get round to what I was talking about earlier, positions of trust. Now, right from the crack of early dawn, we spoke about, you know, us being betrayed. 50% of my audience probably, or maybe all of us, being betrayed by people in trust or authority, or people that were meant to be looking out for us as youngsters, and sadly took the piss out of us and used our vulnerabilities and innocence to their own ways and beings, and, you know, made us lose faith and trust in life itself to start with, until you know the difference between the two, because we know no matter what, these things exist. But when you're in a position of trust, comes with, you know, like being on YouTube. Many are on YouTube now. You might not be the same as being on TV, because we're not no celebrities. We're just criminals trying to make amends, as far as I knew, as far as I recognize. I couldn't see YouTube as anything else for me, which is why I remember where I come from and talk to the normal people that I always spoke to when the journey began up to now. You know, there's no change from me in the way that I talk to them, because my reasons for doing things, and maybe others are different. I don't know. But you have a responsibility to be a role model. And many are superstars in footballers, cricketers, entertainers are using those statuses that they hold on to, or they have, as power in another form. Like, I can almost do anything I want, say anything I want, because I'm who I am and nobody can tell me nothing. That means you're getting carried away by that new position you're in from the one that you was into before. Say, for namesake, footballers. We know there's a few names being thrown around at the moment. I won't go into that because nothing's been proven and nothing's been said. But I say, when you're a role model, you have to be a role model and not get sidetracked. Now, when you're moving into that superstar status as a footballer, a cricketer, or a movie star, or whatever way you want to call it, you're in a position of role model-y, trusty. You know, they like you for whatever reasons, for the thing that you're good at, for you to show signs in your character so early on in life. You know, you're destroying your whole career. And many people, youngsters that have held you in high esteem and want to role model you and base their, you know, you can do it, I can do it, that kind of stuff. And now they know that you're letting people down by some of your behavior. We know that loads of us around are guilty of our past behavior, but we're talking about now. You know, being what you say you are as a role model, so that people can look up to you to see that there's a way out of the darkness into the light. But your behavior is suggesting otherwise. And forever and a day now, some of the things that are being said out there right now, if it was a footballer, for instance, for what's being said, and no evidence, and we don't know yet what's going to happen with certain things, but how does a man then, from that being from where we all are as just normal folk, we're not in the limelight and superstars like that, from you being from us to go into there, and then all of a sudden every game you're going to turn up and you're going to get barraged and barraged and barraged and barraged. You know, many times along the years, you know, there's many fallen superstars or fallen so-called celebrities who thought they were bigger than life itself, that you could almost say and do what you want. Even some on YouTube were getting so carried away with themselves that they forgot their dignity and their respect for ladies and men and whatever way you want to put it, and find themselves now being ridiculed and laughed at and things. But you was in your position of power and you let it get the better of you. Whether things are true or whether they're not, I don't know. I wasn't a fly on the wall. But who you say you see on the way up, when you're on the way down, the ones that you forgot about will be the ones that won't be there, sadly. And that was the golden rule for many of you. But again, another question. How are they going to deal with that weekly barraging if they get the chance to be able to fulfill their potential again? Because forever and a day, like I'm known for a criminal and an institutionalized nutcase or prisoner or a misguided individual, or, you know, a person who sad things happen to, you know, the stories are out there, all of us. So we'll be remembered for those things, but we're also remembered for the good that we was meant to do and the role that we was meant to play, to give other people a platform and a chance to see that there's a way out, whether it be sport, entertainment, YouTube, you know, by coming out and doing your own things, you know, that kind of stuff. You've got to remember that position alone, power, doesn't mean that you have won. It doesn't mean that you let your guard down. And many of us have dark sides to our character, but it's all about the self-control and how you treat individuals as well. And nothing wrong with a kind word every day and now and again. Just because that person's crying and suffering today, that you overlook it and don't give them much time. And, you know, you can't, obviously, even you're working all day, you can't stop everything you do to satisfy everybody on that day. But you remember what I told you, that remember what you're here for. And just because you have a change of lifestyle or career change for the better, it doesn't mean that you look down on or talk to or behave in a manner that's just not acceptable to the rest of us. Probably going to come up in a little bit more today. I've just got to travel. I'll see you all soon. Love you loads.